like we're in our own little bubble here, doesn't it?
It does. But that's fine. We know people are watching.
It is fine. Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, Alistair, I would like to say a massive thank you for coming along and doing this this little half hour with me this evening. Alistair and I work together once a year, don't we?
Yeah, once or twice.
Yeah.
But for quite a long time now.
A long time. No, and it does make me laugh because you say that it's like your one permanent job.
It's true. It's true. Yes.
So Alistair, would you like to just tell us a little bit about yourself first of all?
Yes, so I'm an artist. I'm primarily a sculptor, and after leaving college I got involved with community and school related projects, actually through an organization which provided studios. So it wasn't something that I planned, but I found that I enjoyed it, working with schools and working with groups of other people to make things and share experience of doing things, and then sort of together discover something and make something exciting. And I've sort of just kept doing it, and it became part of my practice as a sculptor, trying to get public art commissions. Often the funders would want some element of collaboration. So it became part of my practice, and it's part of how I make my living. So that's how I got involved, and I do primarily sculpture, as I said, but I occasionally do a mural and a few sort of performance related things. And I find it's a very funny relationship I have with it, isn't it? I'm in a primary school at the moment, and I get dread before I do it. I always think, why do I do this? It's an awful thing to do. But then when I get in there, there's something about having to do it in the space and the input from the children or the group you're working with, that suddenly it becomes a sort of performance. It animates what you're doing, and you just find that you can fly a little bit by wire, but only when you've got a certain amount of planning and preparation in place.
Yes.
That's what we can talk about.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because it's almost kind of paradoxical in a way, isn't it? You kind of I mean, I know that one of the things I kind of, when I was a teacher, I was a nightmare, actually. I never did plan.
I don't believe that.
I shouldn't really say that, should I? But I had like a little scrap of paper, and I would just kind of write a few notes, which was hopeless. But actually, as an artist, that's what I would do. And I always kind of find that idea of, like, you know, making sure you've got all your plans, and it's got to look like this, and it can be quite restrictive in terms of sort of thing, because you think, I've done all this flipping planning, I'm going to flipping well get through it. And what you're saying is actually, it's that unknown, isn't it? That's the joy, in a way. The scary bit is the important bit, actually, that you don't know how it's going to turn out.
Yes, that's right. But I always think it's like you have, I find myself needing to, even if I don't know exactly what's going to happen or where it's going to go to, I always need to have processes that I'm familiar with and that I know other people can do.
Yes.
So you share something that you can all do and you can all immediately engage with. That then begins to sort of build confidence in everybody who's attending. And I'll have an idea of, oh yes, we'll make this and we'll make that. But then because you've sort of got the parameters where you know that you could do that if you need, because you've got the technique in place and you can sort of see a process going through, then it's okay, because you can sort of, people will say, oh, what if I did it like this? And then they become part of the process, and you can say, oh, that's interesting. And sometimes the joy is that they're teaching you and you can then get them to show that to other people, and you get a sort of nice energy going. But it's all within a framework where you've still got some control because you know what the materials can do.
Yeah.
So materials are part of my sort of safety bubble that enables me to feel some level of confidence.
Yeah, I know when you come work with our students, and over the years, as the budget has decreased, and it's such, I mean, I say this to the students, that you come in and you go, okay, what have we got? And I go, well, I got a big bag of screwed up newspaper. And you go, great.
Yeah.
Starting point.
But it is funny because I used to come to you sort of thinking, oh, I'll take this and I'll take that. And I used to load up my bike because I always cycle to you. And then I sort of plan the workshop. But yes, I mean, maybe, that's how I started. And then I've become more confident in that often you don't need lots of things. I tend to always over plan. Like you were saying, you sort of overplan. And we did one a little while ago where you had a big roll of newsprint and you had loads of masking tape.
Yes.
So we just got the newsprint out. You had to scrunch it into it. Oh, my hands are here. Here we go. Scrunch it into a ball, wrap masking tape around it, and then do another one, and then do another one, and then do another one. And the space began to fill with these things. And then it's like, well, what should we do with them? I know, let's join them all together. And that was enough. That was great, wasn't it?
In fact, I'll put it's my day on monitoring this Facebook group tomorrow, and I'll put some photos of that on. That was great. Yeah, definitely. That was absolutely fantastic. It was with our third year group, wasn't it?
Yes. And one of the key things with that is that anybody can scrunch paper.
Yes.
So nobody is sitting there thinking, oh, I can't do it. It's not like I said to them, okay, take your pencil and draw a circle on a piece of paper. Immediately, it's like in primary school, can't hold a pencil, terrified of a piece of paper, scared of failing. If you just say, okay, we're just waiting for the others to turn up, could you all start scrunching up some paper? You don't even know they've started.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Or if I'm working with bits of wood, I'll purposefully leave. I've done a bit of preparation, for example, if I've chopped up bits of wood or found some bits of wood, I'll have it set up in the room and have the sandpaper at the ready. And as people come in, or the group comes and says, oh, can you just start sanding off the edges? This is how you do it. And you sand the edges. And then they're doing something with their hands.
Yes.
And they're doing something with your hands that isn't sort of, trying to draw or follow a pattern or something. It's just a sort of do this or tear or whatever. Yeah. That I really believe this now over the years, that engaging the hands changes the way people feel and what they think. And kids who might find it really difficult to concentrate, if you can give them something that they're doing and able to do. I quite often have wrapping something around, and it's like, that's it, and all you got to do then is encourage. Keep going. Oh, look, what if you did this, and what if you change direction, and then it all starts flowing, and you win them round.
Yes.
And you don't lose anybody, and then you can begin to diversify and create more challenging things. But for me, in primary school, the key thing has always been to start with something that everybody can do.
Yes.
The least confident, the most anxious, the most distracted.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, and that way, it's just so inclusive, isn't it? That's the wonderful thing about it, really. I was interested in what you said about that the kind of idea of working with others, actually becoming part of your process, part of your practice, part of your practice. It's not just something you do to, you know, when a school rings you up and go, please come and work with us, Alistair. Oh, all right. It's not. It's actually much more deeply embedded in how you are creative yourself, isn't it?
Well, I think it is, but it's taken me quite a long time to allow that thought into my head. For a long time, it was like, oh, no, I'm a proper artist.
Yeah.
You know, I went to art college,
Yeah.
and I do this as a sideline to make a living. And then I realized, actually, you know, I've been doing this long enough. There must be some reason I keep doing it.
Yes.
And it must give me something.
Yes.
And then I think I realized that actually it enables me to then have this sort of solitude and the private space and, you know, the sort of locking myself away to do my own work, because actually I don't want to be in my studio on my own all day. I enjoy being with other people, and schools are fascinating, complex environments, aren't they? They're little macrocosms of the country.
Yeah.
And all the different kids and the caretaker and the canteen stuff. It's all this sort of culture which gives me something, and then I can, you know, test myself almost against it, you know, or not against it, but with it, sort of see what I can do, and then go away and recover. This is the joy that I have, I think, which as a teacher, I think you need to try and obviously find a way to do that where you don't burn out, that you have some way of, you know, enabling a sort of relaxing. Obviously you must learn that, and I think that actually making things for the kids can be very relaxing and positive, not relaxing in a sort of, oh, let's all just do art and have a little snooze, but a sort of de-anxietying, you know, and that can then give everybody energy.
Definitely. I think again that a lot of that is to do with being confident in teaching art, though, as well, isn't it?
So how do you build that up? That's the question.
Yeah, because otherwise it can become very kind of over controlled, and that's I was just on another thing just before this, and we were talking a little bit about that, you know, that actually the less comfortable people are with what art is, then the more kind of they think it's got to look like this, and everyone's got to be doing something good, and I'm going to be judged if it's not. And I think that's a huge barrier for a lot of teachers to overcome. I don't know if you find that in working with teachers yourself. How do you manage that, Alistair?
I'm in a school at the moment, and I've already had probably 2 members of staff come by and said, oh, I could never do art. And I wanted to, but I couldn't do it. And I don't understand it, one said. I could never understand it. Yeah. And I think, yeah, no, I don't understand it either. but somehow that's the point. But, you know, so that sounds really sort of contrite maybe, but what I would say is that I don't really talk about art until maybe the end of the session. I don't think of it as like, okay, I'm going to teach you art. I don't start with looking at artists and saying, aren't they clever? I start by saying, let's do this, and oh, look, this is wood and that's plastic. What's the difference? Can you break it? What happens if you snap it?
Yes.
You know, oh, look, hey, look, oh, this is bendy. This is wire. Oh, what if you wrap wire around this? So, you know, getting some, whenever I go in a Costa or anywhere, commuting at the moment, I have a coffee on the way, and I always grab a handful of those coffee stirrers. And sometimes I think when they're busy, I just sort of go out with my pockets full of coffee stirrers. And then I get, you know, then I bring a load to a session and just sort of tip them out on the table, and then you just need something, maybe a little bit of soft wire, like green wire or something. We've done some sessions, haven't we?
Yes, absolutely.
And it's just like, join them together.
Mm.
Just start joining them together, or glue. You know, you can glue and sort of create a pattern or something. And it's about allowing the not knowing. But the trick is that you are knowing something. You know that, you know, glue sticks things. And then you can say, well, how do you actually use the glue? You know, the white glue that you get in those pots in school, PVA, it always, you know, if you put loads on, it's all wet and sloppy, and it takes ages to stick. But if you paint a little bit, let it dry a little bit, it actually gets sticky, like paint when it's drying. And you can really stick with it, or use glue gun, you know, a glue Crit stick.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is that I'm not talking about art then. And I have teachers come in and say, well, this is like DT, isn't it? And I think,
oh no.
Well, it's DT if you want it to be DT. If that makes you happy, that's fine with me.
I know. I've done so many sessions with you, but I when I do my sculpture sessions with the students, I you know, used to come in and we used to make little paper mache animals or whatever. And now I do what we kind of do in your sessions, and I go, do you know what, we're just going to stick bits together and try not to think about making a thing, but that you're making a sculpture.
Yes.
So you think of it like that. And I think that sort of idea of, you know, junk modeling, I try and say to them, try not to use that terminology, just say it's a sculpture. So when somebody says, what is it? It's a sculpture.
Yeah, that's right. Because then you can have a discussion once they're done about what is a sculpture. And oh, look, that one's a sort of blobby one, and that one is tall and thin. And you're beginning to use language then about tall and standing and falling, and how heavy is it, and all these elements that can then become something that you can then use later to discuss something that an artist might make.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or even not an artist, but something in the world. And I think that sculpture, I mean, painting and drawing obviously has a connection with the world, all art does, but as a sort of picture, as a window, whereas sculpture is of the world. It is stuff.
Yes.
So that's why I start with stuff. And then from that, you could, you know, wooden sticks. Well, what is wood? Oh, it's from a tree. Lots of kids don't know that, you know. And so let's make some tree patterns. Let's look at trees, you know. And then, oh, what about if we added some matchsticks? So it's almost like just allowing it and thinking about the materials. Then you think, okay, we get some bigger pieces. Maybe also, I say I'm a sculptor. It doesn't mean I'm sort of modeling big shapes, tripping it. But I love collage, and I love flat sculpture. So sticking lollipop sticks onto a piece of cardboard, that's great, because then, you know, you can bend the cardboard and get it to stand up, or you can build up layers. You can talk about what is 2D and what is 3D. And collage, I always think, if you're thinking, okay, you know, how do I develop a theme and so on? I always, rather than trying to get kids to draw, I'll always, if we're doing a 2D start point, I'll use collage. I think cutting out shapes and just sticking down is a much easier thing for the kids to engage with.
It is. It's a lovely way in to starting a sculpture project as well, isn't it? You've got the shapes already, if you like, and you can start, like you say, manipulating those and cutting them, making them stand up, and then you've got something already, and then you can build on that. And it is very much about that flow of the process and not kind of being too worried. And actually, Alistair, we have got a question here.
Good.
We've got a question, and it says, do you find children are more comfortable with not knowing about what the outcome is going to be than adults? If so, why do you think that might be?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yes.
I think that's true. Yes, I think they're less inclined to need to know what the end product is going to be. They're less anxious because, you know, I think primary school too, and maybe that's why, you know, I enjoy primary, because actually they like mucking around with stuff and being given an opportunity to you know, manipulate stuff in space. And why is that? I think because over time we learn to, you know, put A before B and C is at the, you know, Z is at the end, and you've got to go all the way along in between. And we as artists are trying to unlearn some of the patterns and to look for new angles on things, new avenues, not new avenues, but just we tend to wander off the path a little bit more, maybe. I don't know. And I think that children, if they're lucky, and of course, lots of them are very uptight about, what's this going to be? I can't even consider doing that. In which case you can say, you know, as I said, you know, you don't talk about art. I don't talk about art at the beginning. I just say, look, we're just going to, you know, experiment with these materials. So I do a quick little practice.
Oh, yes, please.
It's a very basic thing, and it's quite interesting in that it's sort of 2D, but got the potential for 3D. And hopefully it will get me to think about a few material things. So during lockdown, I started collecting my rubbish a little bit. So I became very conscious how many little chocolate pots. It's like watching the telly again, having a little jockey pot, you know, and then it's like the sort of thing, you know, they started stacking up. These shelves on the back wall have got like stacks of my hummus pot, where I can't keep throwing these away. I just can't. Come on, give them time. And I always think if you collect enough of anything, then you can sort of, something begins to happen with number, you know, where you could then sort of stack them in different ways and make patterns with them and so on. Anyway, so one of the things I started with these cards.
Yes.
So this is a long life carton. Or you can get, you know, these plant milks and things. And they're called Tetra Pak. They used to be a tetrahedron, which is why they're called Tetra Pak. And you can open it out and flatten it out. Okay, so you can store them easily because, you know, so just, you can say, well, it's already gone from 3D to essentially 2D.
Yes.
Suddenly it's thin, was fat. And it's I can, you know, I'll talk about the material properties of it. So like, I've done a bit of blue peach. Here's one I flattened it. Right, I didn't need to do that, did I? And you get your pair of scissors and you say, okay, everybody, just snip the ends off. That's not that difficult. Surely everybody can just snip the ends off. Well, of course, some won't. And then it's like, you've rinsed them out.
Yes. Preferably.
This one hasn't been rinsed out. These are ones that have been knocking around in my studio, so we won't look too closely, but it's a tube.
That's all, we don't mind.
So that in itself, you know, you're mucking around with the tubes quite. But what I like about them is that they have this added element. So they're not just, they've got this little spout thing. They're not just a piece of cardboard. So when you then slice them long ways, and this is just a way that I do it. So I
yes,
go
can
up that
see.
way. Yep. You open it out. Okay. It's a clean one. The last one a bit mucky. Right. So
Silver.
Silver. And the reason they're long life is because they got metal in it. So it's shiny, it's aluminium. So you can talk about that. Actually, this is like a modern version of the tin can. You know, tin can is preserving food. I often find myself talking about things which somebody might say, well, that's not art. And I'm talking about, I don't know, did you know Napoleon invented the tin can? Because he wanted his soldiers to be properly fed when they were marching and dominating Europe, you know, and they had to find a way, and that's what they did. And so tin can leads to this, which is a thing for preserving food. Why would you need to preserve food? You can go off on all sorts of tangents. So then you say, well, they're little creatures that come and eat your food otherwise, and this keeps them out. So you think, well, what do those little creatures look like? Go on Google, find some pictures of, I don't know, bacteria or microorganisms and think, okay, let's make some of them. Now that we've had a discussion about that, what should we make with this? Oh, look, it's got an eye. So do we make some of them? Anyway, so I looked at it and thought a way to use like maximum material, you know, have as little to throw away as possible. I looked at it and thought, fish. I don't know about you, but I sort of look and think, well, it's sort of, there's a bit of place going on, isn't there? Oversold.
Shiny scales.
Shiny scales, exactly. And it's actually quite nice, and you can sort of scribe it and mark it as well. Anyway, so what I did was
yeah, I can. Yeah.
You can. I mean, this is a very quick one I've done with school. The little mouth. I'm trying to use the material efficiently. Sort of fishy. And then, and you could make it, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. But what I would do is have some images of fish. And actually, you could just come up with a few really nice images of different fish. I did this in school, and I found some. I started thinking, okay, so different shaped fins, different shaped tails, and of course, there's loads of people who spend their lives studying fish, and they've written about, you know, fan tails and kite tails, and so you put up a few images, and then you'll find the diversity in. And somebody says, oh, mine's going to be a shark, mine's going to be a goldfish, mine's going to be, you know, a fish I've made up. So you can then get, so you could have straight cutting, just straight cut, right? Do a straight cut. Everybody surely can do a straight cut. So you can sort of hack into it. I often say, look, don't try and cut it all out in one go. Take it out bit by bit, and then just all you got to do then is follow a curve. It's a bit easier. Also quick, because, you know, otherwise.
Yes, I know.
Very long.
Yeah, and I do wonder, lots of children probably don't get taught actually how to use scissors.
But that's lesson in itself.
It is. Yeah.
I've often thought, if I were a teacher in a class and I'm not, then doing a session in class, you know, whether you can, but ideally, you do a session equipping the children with a few skills on which you can build to then be creative.
Yeah.
But creativity isn't something that just sort of comes out of you like a fountain. You need certain skills, but they don't have to be complex.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so you could.
Alistair, can you just speak directly into your speaker?
Oh, sorry, am I mumbling?
A bit muffled, but yes, I can understand what you're saying. A bit muffled.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So
That's better.
Here's my fishy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from that, the original ones I did were actually based on fish skeletons rather than live fish, because when you look at a fish skeleton, it's a fascinating structure. And So what I was interested in is all the bones in a fish. So you could spend a lot of time. You can, or not, I'm not saying you spend a lot of time. Here you go. You can take out little pieces. So one thing I'd say is, rather than just doing this, which is what children tend to do, lots of cuts, and then the overall effect is it's still solid.
Yes, yes.
To say, actually, I want to put space in. I've put a space in there, and I want you to put a space between those stones. So you start using words like space.
Yes.
There's a gap, and I want this to be like an X-ray fish. So I'm going to X-ray into its body. So the challenge now is, how do we cut into there without cutting into the side? So you fold it and you make a little snip, fold and snip, you know. So there's none of this poking it and chopping your fingers and scaring it. And then you've got a little aperture.
Lovely.
You can, and so then I just take out a little piece in the middle. And it's something which, because it's rubbish, you don't have to feel precious about it. Because you were tucking them away before I suggested you keep them. Maybe you weren't. And then you can do just repeating patterns. You know, you can begin to. I started looking for images of fish, simple images of fish, and I found some lovely, you know, cave paintings of fish. And you just look and you think, you know, they were looking at the same thing that we did in the supermarket. Anyway, so look, here we go. So you begin to get a sense of it. So I'm going to show you some pictures. I'm going to share my screen for a second.
Lovely.
So I did a workshop in a primary school. I started it before I worked out the Tetra Pak idea. I was doing folded paper. Can you? Oh, sorry. Can you see this?
We can see all of them.
Say again.
We can see all the pictures. Can you focus in on one so we can see it?
Is it not showing you one?
That's come out a little bit more. Yes.
Is it not doing it? Is that any better?
And we can see all your pictures.
Okay. I wonder why it's showing you all, because I'm zooming in.
Oh.
Okay, let me see if I can make it bigger.
You might just need to share your whole screen, Alistair, instead of the actual app. That might help.
Okay. I'll do a new share. How do I share the whole screen? Sorry.
Yeah, how do you do that, Diane?
Portion of screen, computer, audio, video.
So if you go to share screen, does it give you, you can either share.
Screen. Here we go.
Yes, there we go. And then that should be able to mean you can put the pictures up and that will show us as well.
Is that better?
There we go. Perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
So these are folded bits of paper. So they've got symmetry, which is quite interesting. They were very little kids. You can see this was the beginning of this idea of the fish. And then these were sort of before. This is what you do if you say, cut out some fish.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like, not going too well, actually, is it? But then it's like, this isn't working. So I'm going, hang on, all the time, thinking, how does this work? So this is then folding and beginning to do the thing where you're cutting into the body and exposing the interior. And then these are images of the fish. I'll just show you. Oh, it's called. Here we go. Sorry about this.
That's all right. We can see the pictures.
Yeah. So if I just show. Okay, so here we are. So here are some pictures. Can you see this? Okay.
Yes, you can see that.
Here's some reference images, which I've printed off Google Images or whatever. The children have drawn a fish shape onto their Tetra Pak, and they're cutting out shapes. Okay.
Yes, beautiful drawings as well.
Aren't they? But what's quite good about these is that the eye provides a sort of location. And I think that that helps, because it's like, okay, you've got something to work with. It forces it to have a position. So that's a not long life one. That's an orange carp, right? So it's not silver.
Yeah.
And he's going in and doing the ribs. And look, some of them end up really long and thin. And I'm thinking, oh, I quite like that. Look how big the eye is.
Yeah, it's amazing, yeah.
Here they are with their creations.
Fantastic.
And this is interesting because this is the other side.
Yes.
This has become a tropical fish now, hasn't it?
It really.
So silver on one side, and it's all lovely, got color on the other side. Okay, so let me just quickly. So what I did to sort of begin to introduce another element to it was they would have a go with a hammer and nail, because it's quite a tough material, and I wanted them to make a series of holes along the middle. Go back. Tell me if I'm going on too long. So they're hammering up through onto a piece of wood on the table. So even though we're just making these little fish, the necessity of making a hole has introduced a new technique. And this is what we then did, was to poke a piece of, you'll see, I go, the final things. So they've got little bamboo skewers poked through those holes to make them rigid. And you could use a piece of wire for that. And then you could bend them to shape. So these were then stapled onto fishing line. Look, those are quite nice, aren't they?
They're lovely.
Okay.
They
so
are beautiful. And what a lovely display.
So the final thing was this. So every child in the school made one.
Oh my goodness, that's gorgeous.
And it was a lot of work, but it was very nice. And even though, you know, there was something really, by the time you'd done it, it was like, wow, who'd have thought, oh, these are nice ones, look. So these are just, and with these, I like the mixture of the drawing, the cutting out, how geometric they are. Anyway, so that's
lovely.
Primary school children doing that. And it's something which you could then use in different ways. So if I stop sharing for a second.
Yeah, I think, Alistair, we're going to have to wrap up quite soon, because we're going over time, and I've got some questions for you. That is absolutely, what a lovely thing to have a little demonstration like that, and to see the fantastic diverse responses from all the children to that activity.
They're all doing the same thing.
Yeah, but they've got their own thing that they've done as well.
Nature is the great divider, isn't it? You know, in terms of, well, what shall we do? Look at nature, look at the variations within nature, and then, you know, be inspired by nature. You can't go wrong, really.
You can't go wrong. And hopefully they'll all grow up to do their GCSE and natural world or whatever it is. GCSE. Right. Yeah, we definitely want them to do that, don't we? And
an opportunity to talk about why chuck it, and look at what this is made of: plastic, cardboard, aluminium. What a complicated thing! What an incredible material. Feel it; it's wonderful stuff.
Yes, exactly. So I have got one question. I've got two questions actually. Some children, their parents and carers might believe that being an artist is not a possible career choice. What would you say to a child or parent who says art, craft, and design won't lead to a career? By the way, you are a great role model and so relatable. So you've got a fan.
That's nice, thank you.
What would you say to that question?
Don't worry about that at this stage. They're little kids.
I know, that's so true. My God.
And what they're doing is learning, they're getting a taste of what their mind is capable of. they can take that experience of creativity, of taking something that was undervalued, applying themselves to it, learning a skill, working through the challenges, resolving it, collaborating, displaying it, and apply that to other subjects and other roles. Creativity is something that isn't exclusive to art, but art is a place where, you know, it is part of what is taught. But mathematicians are creative, business people are creative, you know, and that also, that don't be fooled into thinking that everybody who does art ends up being an artist. They end up being filmmakers, they end up working in all sorts of industries.
Absolutely.
And apart from anything, if you don't experience art as a child, when are you going to do it? But also, it's your culture. Allowing children to experience art can give them the ability to read and understand culture, the rich heritage that we have, in a you know, more powerful way. You don't have to do it necessarily, but it helps you to understand what culture is, you know.
Yes, and it gives another dimension of their lives that they wouldn't have if we don't do it with them. You know, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Love it. There's one more question, Alistair, and some children. Oh no, that's the same question. It's the same question. That was just one question.
Yeah,
that's the same question.
That's all right.
It's repeated. I don't think there's any more, are there, Diane? I think Diane's probably gone to sleep, has she?
No, that's all our questions. If we do get any more, as we always say, when people are watching these back, Alistair, if there's anything that pops up that we have questions, we're always happy to share them over, put people in contact.
I think we better say thank you so much, because it's gone 6:10, and we have had such a lovely evening talking with you. My goodness, how great was that?
You can follow me on Instagram. I tend to pump my Instagram when I'm busy, and you know, once I got the photo permissions, I'll share pictures of kids, you know, which is great. I always think this whole thing of you can't show the kids, you can't show the kids. Why not? You know.
Yeah, where on earth has it come from? It's so crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. But even, you know, just I do share stuff about the processes, and I'm always, you know, happy to respond to people if they want to.
Lovely. Well, I've really enjoyed chatting with you, and
new teachers are so important.
Yes,
you're so brilliant, and try and give the kids some art.
Yes,
try to enable it, and don't be fearful. Try to overcome your fear. Just equip yourself with a few things, and allow the kids to share your learning. So if you're learning something too and thinking, I don't know what to do, maybe share that and say, look, here's our material. What shall we do? Let's be creative together, and allow them to step up and say, well, I've got an idea, and then see where it goes.
Yes.
Don't have to always be leading the charge. You need to equip and provide confidence and do it safely and all that stuff. But allow a few mistakes, allow a few not knowing. You'd be surprised that they'll help you. That's my experience.
Yes, exactly. Mine too, definitely. Well, thank you so much. It's been a lovely evening. But it is gin and tonic time now, even though it's only Tuesday.
Thanks very much. Sorry if I've gone on a bit.
Lovely to see you, and I'll see you. I'll email you, make a date for you to come.
Great. Yes. Lovely. Thanks, Susan. Nice to see you. Thanks, everybody.
Everyone, thanks for watching.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.